The topic of our videos this month is foot pain. We've already put out a video on plantar fasciitis, which is the most common type of foot injury that we see. We're gonna link to that video here. Put out another video on Morton's neuroma, which is a very common foot injury, which we will link to here. Now, if you're looking for treatment for your foot pain, we consider shockwave therapy to be the gold standard treatment for foot pain, especially plantar fasciitis, and we're gonna link to that video here. But in this video, if you have foot pain, we're gonna be talking about the 5 things you need to consider when shopping for shoes. So the first thing we need to consider is the intended use. What are you gonna be using these shoes for? Now, there are shoes that are made especially for running, shoes that are made especially for tennis, weightlifting, ones that are made just for casual use and walking around. And you want to make sure that you are selecting the correct shoe for that activity. We see runners or people who are running all the time in shoes that are not running shoes. They look like running shoes, they look like athletic shoes, and they are athletic shoes, but they are not running shoes. So we want to make sure that whatever you're buying your shoe for, it fits that activity, and it should be specifically for that activity and left for that activity. If you're buying running shoes, don't use them for anything else. Use them only for running, okay? So make sure we are fitting the shoe for the intended use. Now we're going to get a little bit into the fit of the shoe. We want to make sure that, very importantly, the toe box width matches the width of your foot. So most shoes and most people are wearing shoes that are too narrow for their foot. So we want to make sure we have enough width for those toes to breathe and wiggle around within your shoes. A good way to check is to take the insole out of your shoes, put them on the floor, and put your foot on top of that insole. You should see a border of your foot around the insole, just like you see here. If your foot overflows or sits outside of that border, that shoe is too narrow for you. So some good brands that have a wider fitting shoe are going to be New Balance, Ultra, Vivo Barefoot, and Lems. There are plenty of others out there, but those are some good ones. Now, a wider toe box is going to be especially important if you're dealing with Morton's neuroma, because as you learned in our Morton's neuroma video, that can develop as those metatarsals become crammed up and put pressure on the nerve there. So we do want to make sure we have a wide enough toe box if you're dealing with Morton's neuroma. Next, we're going to talk about heel-toe offset. That is the difference in the height between where the heel sits and where the forefoot sits. And you can find this information on any shoe manufacturer's website. So if you look at the Brooks Ghost 12, you will find that the difference in the heel height and the forefoot height is 12 millimeters. The Saucony Kinvara here is 4 millimeters. So that's a lower heel-toe offset. That's going to sit closer to barefoot. Now, if you don't have any kind of foot issues, we do recommend finding a shoe that sits on the lower end of that spectrum. But if you have a foot issue, any kind of foot pain, especially your plantar fasciitis, your Achilles tendonitis, or your calves are very tight, you might want to have a shoe that sits on the higher end of the spectrum towards that 12 millimeter heel-toe offset, because that'll help take some of the pressure off the foot, take some of the pressure off the calf, and provide you some relief. Now, long term, maybe not the best solution, but while you're dealing with the pain, maybe err on the higher end of that heel-toe offset. Then once it's better, you can then migrate down into that 0 to 4 millimeter range. The next thing we want to consider is your arch support. So we don't want too much arch support, we don't want too little arch support. You want to find a shoe that meets your arch. It should not be pushing up into it, or you should not have too much of a gap in between your arch and where the arch of the shoe sits. So find a shoe that fits the arch, and this is really going to come down to how it feels on your foot. Okay, if you feel like it's pushing up into your foot too much, it's probably too much. If you feel like you're not getting enough support, you're probably not getting enough. So find one that feels like it just meets your arch. And then lastly, this might sound obvious, but you want to find a shoe that feels comfortable to you. They've actually done research on running shoes, and they found that the shoe that is least likely to lead to injury is the one that people self-select as being the most comfortable. So go into a store and try on a variety of shoes and pick the one that is most comfortable for you. And then lastly, here's some things to avoid. We want to avoid things like flip-flops and high heels. Flip-flops are not going to provide you with the support that you need in a shoe. It's going to cause your toes to curl as you walk, which throws off the normal mechanics of your foot, which could perpetuate your injury. And then high heels, we all know, save those for the special occasions. Those should not be worn daily. I hope our videos this month have been helpful. Again, check out our plantar fasciitis video, check out our Morton's Neuroma video, and then definitely look into shockwave therapy if you're dealing with any of these issues. And if you have questions on your foot injury or footwear or what kind of treatments would fit you best, feel free to reach out to us. That's why we're here.